And good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kate Meta, not Jennifer Burns, as it may show up on my screen. As I mentioned, I'm Kate Meta, and I'm from the Business Insight Center at the Central Library of Rochester and Monroe County. I'm the manager of the Carlson Center for Intellectual Property, so I can help with patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Thanks again for joining us for this Business First Wednesday program on how to batch content, a guide to managing social media for business. Please do remember to mute your microphones and enter any questions you may have into the chat. Our speaker, Anthony, will try to address that as we go throughout his presentation. Just a reminder that all services of the Business Insight Center and the Carlson Center for Intellectual Property are free, confidential, and available by appointment only. This webinar will be recorded, and you'll receive via email the link as well as the slides. And that usually takes about a week for us to process and get out to you. And I would like to introduce you to Anthony Durand, Business Advisor of the Disaster Cares Act for the Small Business Development Center. Today, he's going to focus, as mentioned, on managing social media for business. He has asked that he's going to primarily focus on Instagram and Facebook. As we all know, social media is a huge, wide topic, but as mentioned for this program, he's going to talk about that with Instagram and Facebook. So without further ado, Mr. Anthony, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to spend time with you this morning. I know that as entrepreneurs, you are extremely busy, so it means a lot to me that you chose to spend your morning with Kate and I. And thank you again, Kate, for that wonderful introduction. I would like to do my best to keep this information as concise as possible. So like she said, I would like to keep the scope focused on Instagram and Facebook. So if you have any questions pertaining to other social media platforms, I would ask that you wait until the end of this presentation to do so. But if there's something specific that I mentioned that you do have a question about, please feel free to write in the chat, and Kate will do her best to stop me mid-sentence, and we can address whatever questions or concerns that you have at that time. All right, so again, I would like to just give my thanks to the Central Library for hosting this event. I'm very appreciative to them, and as Kate mentioned, they have a bevy of resources that they have available that they can help you with, and all of their services are free. As she mentioned earlier, they are part of the network of the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office. So any questions that you have relating to intellectual property, they'll be able to assist you with, in addition to market research and many other different services that they have. And of course, I am a business advisor with the Small Business Development Center. We also offer free services that will be useful to you as a business owner, free of cost, of course. And we have many different options as far as helping you with your business plan, discovering new sources of funding, preparing your e-commerce store, and also if you're interested in exporting and importing goods, that's something that we offer assistance with, as well as complying with licenses and regulations and permits and all of that different stuff that you need in order to make sure that your business is complying with the law, and also that you can manage things on your own in your own time. So why are we here today? You're probably here because you don't really have a big understanding of social media. You've probably spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money, and you're not sure why you're not seeing the return on your investment that you would like. So that's what I really would like to get in today, is just figuring out how you can best manage your time and your focus so that you can have very concrete goals that you can achieve, and metrics that can help you identify if you're on the right path to achieving those goals. So, in order to understand how to market yourself and your business on social media, it's very important that I discuss what social media is and what it is not. Because like Kate mentioned in the beginning, it is a very large, vast topic, and it gets a little bit confusing for some people. So I want to address some common misconceptions just so we can get those out of the way, and you can help recontextualize how you view social media and your place in it. So some of these misconceptions may be that you have to be on every single social media site, which is simply not true. There are so many different platforms out there, and they each are catered to a different audience, and they have different features for that audience. So depending on what your business is, you might find yourself in a position where it's better for you to be on certain channels as opposed to others. Some you may be able to ignore completely, but we'll talk about that more later on. Another misconception is that you can't measure your investment, which is simply also not true. There are ways that you can track your progress towards your goals. There are key performance indicators that you can use to determine if your content is actually working. And once you get started on running ads, you'll be able to see a lot more information in regards to how those ads are performing and how they translate to sales on your business website. I've also heard people say that social media is only for young people. And as I'll show you in the next couple of slides, that with our population continuously growing year over year, there's an increasingly older population who is using social media. I think I've just read a recent report from the World Health Organization that states that by the year 2050, over 2 billion people on the planet will be over the age of 60, which is a lot of people, and they're not to be ignored. Now that social media is becoming ubiquitous, a lot more people are seeing the value that it can provide, and they're growing up in an age where social media is simply the norm. So don't be afraid to get on there and express yourself to the best of your ability. So let's get into the numbers so that you could really begin to understand the impact that social media has, not only on your life, but on your business. 90% of business executives agree that companies that do not invest in social media marketing will be left behind. And this is according to Forbes. 35% of consumers surveyed that they name social media as the primary way that they learn about new products, services, and brands. I know for me, that's completely true. My first reaction whenever I hear about something new or I see and I'm interested in a new product, I go straight to Instagram or Facebook, because I know that I'm not only going to find relevant information about that company or the product, but I'll also see how people are reacting to it in real time, which is something that's very important. As human beings, we are social creatures, and we can't help but to be interested in how other people feel and what they're doing. And social media provides us with an opportunity to do that with each other. And also, people spend 2.5 hours a day typically on social media, which is not as much time as they're spending watching television, but it's still a significant chunk of our time. That's about 10% of our day. And how we spend those 2 hours on social media can really affect how we make purchasing decisions, and also how we feel about the brands that we choose to support and do business with. So here's more information, like I was saying, about just how worldwide social media has just simply taken over human interactions. There are 4.2 billion users across many different social media platforms. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the most popular platforms include Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Snapchat. Those are pretty much like the upper echelon of social media. And those are the platforms where we see most people are engaging with each other, and people are able to turn that engagement into a reliable revenue stream for their business. And as we see here on this graphic on the right, you see the ages of the people on social media. Obviously, the younger generation accounts for more than 80% of the users. But if you look all the way at the bottom, that's 65 plus. There are over 40% of the US population above that age that are on social media. So to say that it's just for young people is simply not true. It's really for everybody, because we all have that desire to connect with each other. Whether you just want to go on and see pictures of your grandkids, or you want to talk to your friends about what you did last night. It's all about us connecting with each other as people. And it's something that as human beings, we've always been interested in doing, regardless of how far away we are from each other, what our differences may be. Human connection is what keeps our lives going. And that's really the biggest misconception that I want to debunk right now, is that social media is something that's new and just out of this world. You know, there's been a lot of talk about how bad it may be for our society, that it's allowing people to spread certain messages that may not agree with other people, or just, it's too distracting and it takes away from our attention. But this is the way that we have always been. We are hardwired to want to be connected with each other and talk to each other. So how have we been doing that throughout history? I would argue that the original Twitter were carrier pigeons, because that's what people had to their disposal. They wanted to talk to each other and they were nowhere near each other, and they found a way to get it done. You can argue that the selfie game was invented by Mona Lisa far before we had Instagram influencers like Kim Kardashian and Kylie Jenner. Mona Lisa was influencing people all around the world, with this image. Beauty standards and just the way that people were living were affected by these things. It was the first piece of content to really go viral, similar to the Bible. It just spreads like wildfire. And we can argue that in the middle of the night, yelling in your ear, hearing that the British is coming, is not that different from accidentally opening up someone's Facebook Live. Somebody's always going to want to be talking, and we're always going to want to know what they have to say, because human history is so fun and complicated that certain moments in time deserve to be preserved. They deserve to be remembered, because that is how we continue on our legacy. And that's what I really want to emphasize today with this presentation, is that social media is just the latest step in the evolution of human storytelling. It's this core foundation and the ideas that drive the engagement on social media and the connections that we build are no different from all different forms of media that we've experienced throughout history. And that's all that social media is. It is another form of media that allows us to be social with each other. And the main goals are for us to communicate, connect, and influence one another. And that's what you really want to do with your business. You want to communicate the value that you can provide to your customers, and you want to connect with them as well, so that you can show them that you share common values and build a community. And once you have built that community with your loyal followers, you can begin to influence their behavior and get them to a point where they feel comfortable doing business with you, because they feel like what you represent in your brand is in line with what they represent in their own personal lives, and that you can provide that value for them consistently. So why should you be on social media? Like I talked about earlier, it's all about building a community. So you want to find your niche audience. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that later on in this presentation. What you want to understand is that your niche is going to be the backbone of your community. These are the people that you're targeting to the most, because you can waste a lot of time, effort, and money, quite frankly, trying to speak to everybody. And you simply can't do that. Not everyone is going to want to know what you have to hear, and not everybody is going to have the access to do that. So instead of focusing so broad, you want to really narrow your focus and find your niche, because that is where your money is, and you want to speak directly to them. And that's what social media allows you to do, is that there's a very low barrier to entry, so that you can have those conversations uninterrupted with your customers, and so that you can build that connection with them, which will strengthen the relationship and make them more loyal to your brand. Which brings me to what I want to talk about when we speak about brand visibility. What is brand visibility? So you're probably in the beginning stages of your business right now, where you're just now developing a name and a logo, and you want people to just be aware that you exist. And that's what brand awareness is. It's just getting your name out there so that people can start to pay attention to you. Maybe they may know what you do, maybe they don't. But the fact that people don't know who you are is going to be an obstacle in selling your products. So just, you want to get your name out there. And then once you're able to achieve that brand awareness where your name is recognizable, that's when you get to the stage of brand recognition. So I just want to stop the presentation for a second right now, and I want you to answer this question. Can you tell me what these companies' names are just based on the logos that you see? And I'll wait to see in the comments if you guys can get some of these right. And I want to know exactly how many you think that you actually know. Somebody says they got all of them. All of them. Yes. And I would imagine that you would know all of them. It's because these brands put in the work to get that brand recognition. Because you don't need to hear any type of jingle. You don't need to hear a slogan. Once you see this logo, you know exactly who they are and what they stand for, which is the most important thing. You have to stand for something. You have to have an identity built around your brand. And that's the only way that you'll be able to achieve this brand recognition. And once you have brand recognition, like Apple or McDonald's or Nike, people will begin buying from you just because they're so loyal to your brand. They're not going to want to look anywhere else. They're not going to want to entertain your competition because they are so loyal to you. And it's because you built that relationship, and that trust is really the foundation of establishing brand loyalty. But you cannot have brand loyalty without a business, because without a business, there is no brand to market. And it's at this point that I have to give a shout out to my colleague, Gina Mangiamelli at the SBDC in Rochester, because she really took me under her wing and helped me with this concept by breaking it down into these 3 questions. Who wants what you have? Why do they want it? And why do they want it from you? And if you cannot answer these 3 questions, you will not be able to build a brand, because you need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. And people need to feel that, like I said, what your mission is in line with what they need. What is the problem that they have, and how can you solve it? And why you specifically? Because there's always going to be competition. We can't get rid of them. So the job of marketing on social media is to stand apart from the competition, to make yourself unique in the value that you can provide. So that brings me to discussing the business model canvas. This is a very important tool that we like to use here at the SBDC to map, discuss, and design business models, because it's very easy to conceptualize an idea, but in order to execute, your thoughts and your ideas must be organized. And I believe that the business model canvas is a great tool for organizing your thoughts in a business. Now, for the focus of this presentation today, we're only going to really talk about the first 4 components of the business model canvas: your value proposition, your customer segments, the channels, and the customer relationship. So let's break each of those down one by one. Your value proposition is exactly what it says. What is the value that you are offering to people? And what is the problem that you are solving? Your customer segments are going to be the people that you are providing that value to. This is your niche, which I discussed earlier. These are the people that you want to speak to, because like I said, speaking to everybody is not going to be in your best interest. You want to focus the bulk of your energy and your attention on the people who are actually going to be engaged in what you have to say. And the channels, how do you deliver this value, and where can you reach your customers? Now, for a lot of people, in this day and age, with a lot of stores closing, they've shifted a lot of their business to online. So your channel may be either your online store, it could be a Shopify or Etsy, or maybe you still have products that are available in store. So you want to make sure that you're also communicating your value, but also communicating how this value is going to be delivered, and tell people, hey, if you want to buy my product, make sure you go to this store or you go to this website. And always make sure that you're reinforcing that idea that it's easy for them to get access to what you are able to provide. And then we move into the customer relationship. You want to be able to build and maintain these relationships. And with having direct access to your customers on social media, you're able to be in full control of how that relationship is managed. So that means responding to direct messages that you may get from potential customers, responding to the comments that may be on the post, and even also engaging on posts of your customers and your clients. You know, really show them that it's not a one-sided relationship. that you not only want their business, but you still do want to provide other things for them, that you care about them as a customer and that they mean more to you than just the money that they can provide. Like I said, it's really about creating a community. And once you create that community, then the brand loyalty becomes more synonymous with that. So one of the most important things that I've begun to realize on social media is that a lot of people are using it as a search engine. You may have known already, YouTube is a very big, popular search engine. I find myself constantly going on YouTube and typing in the phrase "how to," and it's a source where you could get a lot of information for free, and people are now doing that on social media as well. So you're able to search for things not just by hashtags or posts, but you can actually use keywords and they will find for you different posts and pages that are relevant to the phrases that you put in to the search bar. And that's what you really want to focus on when it comes to marketing yourself, is making sure that you're using those keywords so that people can find you easier on social media.
Anthony, can I just interrupt?
Yeah, sure, of course.
And you may want to save this one, but from William, and he asks, what are the pros and the cons of selling on Amazon?
I'm going to save that towards the end.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's not too specific to social media. That's more of an Amazon specific question, but you can use social media to market on Amazon. So
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So as we see here, people are shopping actively through social media. I was actually just at a restaurant a few days ago, and I was having trouble deciding what I wanted to order. And the first thing that I did was open up my phone. I went on the social media page for the restaurant, and I looked for a picture of the burger that I wanted. And that helped influence my decision making. Now, that's not to say that if I didn't find that picture on Instagram of the burger, I would have stormed out of the restaurant and not ordered any food. I'm just bringing it up to mention that it made the process a lot easier for me. It made me feel more comfortable, and it made my experience, the quality of my experience, better, because I felt that I was in a place where my needs would be met, and they clearly showed that on their Instagram page. So we see here that 44% of people surveyed this year use Instagram to shop weekly. And more than half of the people who buy clothes mentioned that they use Instagram or Facebook to influence their decision making. So people are actively going on these social media platforms to gauge if they actually want to purchase a product or not. Now, whether they do so on the platform is a different story, but it cannot be denied the effect that it has on the buying decision making. So if we're looking to talk about business and how social media can help us, we need to treat our bio in our Instagram page and our Facebook page like it is a business card, because we want to show people that we do have what they're looking for. And that's why using those key phrases is very important, because you don't want to waste time. It's very difficult to capture people's attention. We live in a world where things are moving so fast, and there's so many things on social media that are fighting for our attention. So you want to be very direct and to the point in communicating the value that you can provide and showing people how they can access that. So as we see here from the data, it's not just younger generations that are doing this. You see people 55 to 64, 28% of them are using social media for brand research. So if people are using social media for brand research, you should always have all of the information that is relevant to your business in that page bio. And that includes your name, your address, if you have a physical location, and your website. You can also include contact information in there as well. But since people are looking at this information on social media, they'll be able to contact you on there. But it doesn't hurt to add in your email address or your phone number on there if it's not already on your website, which it should be. So I just want to show you a couple of examples of bios that I think perfectly captures this idea of the different components that are necessary to communicate the value to your customers. So as you can see here with this page on the left, the painting polish, they specify exactly what they do. It's nail art, and you can see that just from looking at the page. They tell you the location of where they are and also where you can purchase the products, in addition to including a promo code for a discount, which is fantastic because now I don't need to do any extra effort to find out this information. It's right there in front of me. And you can see that in these other examples as well. They're tagging where you can actually buy the products. And also there's a link to the website. And you see that they're using these keywords that emphasize exactly what the product is. So that if I were to type in, like take this Creole Essence, for example, if I were to type in natural beauty products into my search bar, this page has that in their bio, and I'm more likely to see that in a top result if that is what I'm looking for. So like I said, when it comes to the SEO, you want to make sure that your bio is including these phrases that makes it easier for you to be found by people who are interested in what you have to sell. You can see here with the red fern, they actually include their business hours in there as well. So like I said, just making the process of making a decision easier for the customer by presenting all of this information to them up front, so that it's more beneficial for you, because now it's easy for them to see exactly what is it that they need, and you're communicating your value and you're providing that connection with them on social media.
Okay, Anthony, I've got two questions. The
Okay.
first comes from Ali, and Facebook and Instagram have shop features where people can shop directly from social media.
Yes.
Are there benefits to that? And is there an additional cost?
No, there is not I believe that it depends on the platform that you use to process your payments. But people do pay directly through those social media platforms. I'm not really too sure about specifically what the rate is that they charge per transaction, but I do have a slide later on in the presentation that goes a little bit deeper into how shopping on Instagram and Facebook works.
Perfect. And I've got one more from Tanisha, who asks, where can you find content for your niche to post on social media platforms that shows value for products or services?
I'm not really sure if I understand specifically what that question means. You mean like, where can you find ideas for content?
Yes. Yep. She just responded yes.
Okay. Well, that takes me into my next slide, actually. And that's what I'm going to discuss in the brainstorming section.
Perfect. And I've got one more. William
Okay.
is asking, where is the page bio posted?
Your page bio is not posted anywhere. That is literally the beginning of your platform. So as soon as someone opens up your Instagram or your Facebook page, that information is going to be there. So you don't have to actually post anything extra. That's what's going to be at the top of your page all the time. In Facebook, it's going to be in your about section. In Instagram, it's going to be in the bio.
Thank you.
So that brings me to what Batch is. It is this framework that I've designed to help you organize your thoughts and your ideas surrounding social media so that you can develop your content in batches. So the idea really came from creating a content calendar, because I realized that trying to post every day and come up with those ideas every single day can become draining over time, especially when you're a solopreneur, working in a business on your own. You're wearing so many different hats. You have to worry about your email, or you have to worry about talking to customers. You have to worry about your accounting and finding a location, managing employees. And to put social media on top of that can be a little bit crazy for a lot of people. So you really want to be able to save as much time as possible by getting these things done beforehand. So that's what this framework helps you do. And then you have to brainstorm, figure out the aesthetic, what you want your post to look like, figure out the time that is best to post on it, and also how much time you want to spend on social media as well, which I will get into later on. You want to have a really good caption, and you want to use the right hashtags to get discovered. because hashtags are really the biggest driver of organic engagement on social media. So let's begin with the brainstorming, which is the most fun part, honestly. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what am I trying to say? What is it that you want people to know as a result of looking at your post? And what is you trying to accomplish? Because you don't want to do just anything on social media. Because like I said, there's so many different things going on, so many people to fight for attention with, and you want to stand out. And just doing anything for clout is not going to help you, because you want to make sure that all of your ideas are relevant to your business. So you need to have a goal in mind. What is it that I want to do? And who am I speaking to? You really have to get into the mind of your customer and understand what is it that they're looking for, because it's not all about you. Yes, you are a very big part of the business, and everything that you do reflects on the business. But like I said earlier, social media is about connection, and simply speaking into a megaphone is not going to foster that sense of community with your customers. You want to make sure that their voice is heard, and that you're actively listening to them and what they want, and deliver on that promise. So here are a couple of ideas, if you're having trouble brainstorming, of things that you can post on social media. You can post videos where you can just tell them a little bit about yourself, or you can inform them on many different things. And you can have different goals for what you're trying to do with your post. I like to focus on the main three, just from what I remember when I was writing essays back in college. Do I want to inform, persuade, or entertain? And you really want to think about doing one of those things with your post. And it's okay to have a mix of things that are funny. You don't have to take yourself too seriously, as long as the messaging that you're providing is consistent with what your brand identity is. You want to make sure that you speak with a consistent voice, so that people know what they can expect from you. You don't want to be in a position where, people are really not sure what you stand for, what you're going to do. And you want to make sure that all of your ideas kind of flow together with each other, so that your page can have a sense of cohesion and it makes sense to people looking at it. As I showed you in the examples earlier with the bios, it was very easy to tell what those pages were about and what those businesses do, just based on looking at the feed. You don't have to read anything outside of the bio, because their page helps support that. And you really want, when you're brainstorming these ideas, that to always have the end goal in mind. And if you're having trouble, you can't figure out ideas on your own, I would recommend just a quick exercise to help that I like to use in my own time, is set a timer for 10 minutes and just write down whatever comes to your head. Really think about what people might be interested in. What would I be interested? Why did I even get started in this business? Really tell the story of your business, who you are, why is it meaningful, and that'll help influence your decision-making when it comes to promoting your brand on social media. And if you can't figure out any of those ideas on your own, I've attached some resources for you that you'll have available at the end of this presentation that you can use to actually get information about different topics that you can discuss. So with these websites that I've included, they actually show you what people are Googling. You can see like the different topics that are trending currently on the web, and you can get an idea of exactly what people are looking for, and then you can fill that void and give it to them. Now, so if our page bio is our business card, then that means that our page itself and everything that is on it could really be considered a magazine. It is a collage of everything that you want to express to not only your current customers, but also potential customers. So really, what is the story that you want to tell when people are looking at your page? And it really just applies to even specific posts. You want to make sure that you have a good idea and that everything is presented in a nice, clean, digestible way. Now, there's so many different options for aesthetics on Facebook and Instagram that it'll be hard for me to include all the different options in this slide. We can be here all day. But I would say that it really breaks down into these main types of posts. You can have an infographic, which is just a representation of data. You can use graphs or just percentages, all the different things that you can use to represent data, depending on the type of business that you're in and the information that you're looking to communicate. You can go live, which is available on both Instagram and Facebook, where it's similar to what I'm doing right now. If I were doing this on Facebook, it really wouldn't be any much different. You can also have videos and reels, which are becoming increasingly popular due to there's other platforms like Snapchat and TikTok that Instagram and Facebook have really borrowed a lot of their ideas from when it comes to producing video content. So it is very good for you to be engaged in that, especially since when it comes to videos, it keeps people on your page longer, which helps strengthen your relationship with them when it comes to the algorithm. I don't want to get too deep into the algorithm right now because it's a lot and not a lot of information is known about it, but there are certain factors that help influence how you show up on people's news feeds. And the longer that they spend on your page, obviously the stronger the relationship would be between you and that customer, and you're more likely to appear frequently on their newsfeed, which is why having videos is a very good driver for engagement. You can also post photos, or you can also just post text images. I've seen something that's very popular is a lot of people will screenshot a tweet on Twitter and post that onto Instagram. And that would get probably even more engagement than you would have on Twitter because it's a lot easier for people to find it that way. When it comes to Twitter, getting consistent engagement is very difficult because over 90% of the tweets currently on Twitter are produced by less than 10% of Twitter users. So there's just a lot of information out there and it's very hard to niche down on there. So, if you are on Twitter and you're not really getting a lot of engagement, try transferring some of those tweets to Instagram or Facebook and seeing if you're able to get some increased engagement that way. So now I spoke a little bit about how much time people spend on your post is beneficial to you as a business. So now I'd like to talk about how to make sure that people are seeing your post at a specific time. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your page is actually set up as a business on Instagram. There you can have a personal account, you can also have a business account, but you won't have access to a lot of the key analytics that you're going to need in order to properly market yourself without making your page a business page. So make sure that you are doing that so that you'll have the access to the data where you can see specifically who is following you, where they are geographically, and also what times are they most active on social media. So as you can see here, this is a very generalized recommendation of the best times to post. I would say that it takes time for you as a business owner to find your own best time to post because every audience is different. We spoke about niche audiences. Not every audience is going to be active on social media at the same time. So making sure that you're cognizant of that and mindful of presenting your information at a time where it's most convenient for your followers. Because like I said, you cannot target everybody. Social media marketing is really more of an art than a science. So it's really, you want to get into the habit of experimenting and tinkering with the different times that you post so that you can identify some of the things that work best for you. Over on the right-hand side is an example of the customized analytics that you're able to get through Instagram after you post a certain amount of times. I believe that currently right now, they won't give you access to these analytics unless they have a significant sample size of data from your page. So that means you have to consistently be posting in order to even get this information. And as you can see here, they show you specifically which times have the least amount of engagement and which times are the best. And that is something that you want to be mindful of because you don't want to waste your time and effort posting during a time where people are not going to see it. Now, something that you can use to help make this transition a little bit easier for you is by using a third-party app like Later, Tailwind, or Hootsuite. And what these apps do is they schedule posts for you. I've included an example here of Later, which is the app that I personally like to use. And you can use any one that you want. I don't want to endorse anyone in particular. I just want to speak from my personal experience. And this is what I can speak on the best is using Later. And as you can see, some of these highlighted sections, similar to Instagram, is once you get into the habit of posting consistently, they're able to, with their algorithm, determine the best times for you to post so that you don't have to do all of that work on your own. And like I said, this is where batching your content really comes in handy, because you don't want to have to do this every single day. Ideally, you want to create all of your content on one specific day of the week so that you have the time to make adjustments when needed. And also you have time to run your business, because social media should not be your full-time job. This is something that is just a small part of your business. It is an important aspect of your marketing, but you don't want to get too deep into it and lose yourself, because you have so many other things that require your attention and your energy, and you don't want to waste your time doing things that are not going to work for you. So that's why, using this framework is important, because you're able to get everything done on one day and schedule your posts for weeks ahead of a time. You can use this batch framework to make posts for 1 week, 2 weeks, or even a whole month, just depending on how much time you feel that you have to dedicate to this, so that you can get it all done in a very systematic way and you're not trying to do everything at once.
Anthony, do you know if those are free programs or free apps that people can use?
They do have free versions. I would say that specifically for this feature of finding the best time to post, it's not going to be available in the free version, but you are still able to schedule your post. I think they do put a certain limit on it when you're using the free version, but it's still a lot better than just trying to do everything on your own. So I would say even if you can't pay for the full version, it's still beneficial for you to use.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So now we're into the caption section. Now that we have an idea of exactly what it is we want to talk about and how we want our post to look, we got to have a caption. And I just want to start this off by showing you specifically, what do we have to work with? What are our parameters? What are our restrictions when it comes to captions? So you can have roughly about 400 words in your caption before you get stopped. And as you can see, there's 125 characters that you have until your post gets cut in half. I'll talk about that more a little later, being above the fold and being under the fold. When I get to the hashtag section, I'll go into further detail about what that means. And you can have up to 30 hashtags in one post. Now, that doesn't mean that you should always use all 30 hashtags. And again, this is really just a rule of thumb. It's something that you can experiment with, and you should feel free to, because it is an art. It's not a science. So you want to really play around with different things, and don't feel that this is something that is meant to restrict your creativity, because I've seen captions that work with just one line and it gets increased amount of engagement. I've also seen people who write entire essays and it gets a lot of engagement. And it really just depends on what your audience likes. So that's why you really want to get into the habit of building that connection and just experimenting, putting out ideas out there, and not being afraid to really explore new creative ways to write your captions. But if you ever feel like you're stuck and you're not really know what to do and you're not sure of yourself, this is a really good guideline to fall back on, so that you know that your post is going to be legible and informative. So you want to hook them with a very interesting first line. The first line is everything on social media, because I don't know about you, but when I'm scrolling and I'm just in that trance, it's very difficult for me to break out of that and really stop to pay attention to something specific. So you want to make sure that that first line is similar to what you're doing in your bio. You're communicating the value. You're really expressing what this is going to be about, why you should stop, because that's really the main thing, is getting people to stop and pay attention to you. And you want to make sure that you use line breaks as well, because it's very difficult to read certain things, especially if you're going to go into a very long-winded caption and you're interested in telling a story. You don't want to, clump all of the words together where it's just one long run-on sentence. You want to make sure that you include those line breaks so that it's easy for people to read, similar to like an essay. You want to make sure that it's structured and that it's organized, because that way they're more likely to want to continue reading, because it doesn't hurt their eyes to see. And also, using emojis is a really good way to capture attention, just because they're colorful. It's very hard to ignore when you see like these very colorful caricature and pictures mixed in with text. It's just another trick to really get people to pay attention. And when it comes to the word count, like I said, you can have long captions, you can have short captions. There's nothing wrong with either one, but it's really about making the most of the words that you're using. You don't want to just ramble on because you feel like you have to reach a certain word cap. There's no quota, there's no grammar police that's going to come to you and say your post isn't long enough or your post is too short. But it really is good, just for an average, to go around 65 to 70 words if you're having trouble really coming up with an idea of what you want to talk about in your caption to support the imagery. And the most important thing about the caption, aside from the hashtags, which we're going to get to in a minute, is really discussing a call to action. And you need a very strong call to action because you want people to do something as a result of seeing your post. You don't want them to just see it and say, oh, well, thanks, I'm glad I got that out the way, and move on with their lives. And this is where you want to reconnect to the brainstorm aspect of this process and ask yourself again, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? And if you're trying to accomplish getting people to go to your website or getting people to buy a specific product or to just follow you, if they're not already doing so, make sure you tell them that in the post. You don't want them to have to guess about what they should do. Tell them exactly what you want to do. And this way you're able to identify, how you're going to reach that goal. And if the metrics support what your call to action was in your caption. And here I've included a couple of examples of some really good captions. They're not perfect and they don't have to be. That's another thing. Your caption does not have to be perfect. It just needs to be good enough, as long as you get it out there. So the reason why I like these captions is because they have a lot of the things, the components that make a really good caption. They have the line breaks. It's very easy to read. And they also support the imagery. As you can see from the Genesee Brewhouse post, they have the emojis with the apple and the beer. And immediately that tells you, oh, they're serving apple cider beer and pizza. And you can see that in the picture. Now, they don't necessarily need to have that long line in between. Simply a space would be enough. But like I said, it doesn't hurt. It's not a detriment. It's just something that is their personal choice to use. And remember, you always have that freedom. You always have that authority to do whatever you want with your post. It's really all up to you and what your audience responds to. And as you can see in this other post, they make very great use of the line breaks and also sprinkling emojis throughout, just to really get more of your attention and make you want to read. And what the best thing about these two posts do is that they're constantly communicating the value, and they have these implied call to actions. So as we saw in the Genesee Brewhouse, they don't necessarily specifically say, come and get it, but they do say that it's now on tap. And that is subconsciously reinforcing the idea that you need to act now, because they're telling you that. They provide that sense of urgency with the call to action. Same thing here with the Lucky Flea post. They tell you specifically how much it is to get in, what the hours are. They're really telling you what they want you to do. They even say, come on down. They're telling you that's their call to action. So you always want to include that in your post, because you want people to know specifically what they should be doing as a result of seeing this post. So now we move on to the last step of the batch framework, is the hashtags. Now you can think of this as kind of like Instagram's way of organizing different topics and discussions, is that you want to be able to use hashtags that are relevant to your business. You don't want to just throw a whole bunch of hashtags out there thinking that, oh, as long as somebody sees it, it's going to work for me, because not everybody that see it is going to be engaged or interested in what you're doing. And we always want to target our niche audience because that is where the money is. So don't waste your time and your effort trying to speak to everybody. Use hashtags that speak specifically to the business that you're in and also your geographical location. As you can see here by these hashtags, they're very specific. Now, it would have been very easy to just use one hashtag that says San Francisco Bay, but I would imagine that that's a very popular hashtag that a lot of people are using. So you want to be as specific as possible so that more people are able to see it. And even if that one particular hashtag does have less traffic, the traffic that you are going to get is going to be people that you know for a fact are interested in what you're doing because they're following this very specific hashtag. Why wouldn't they want to be interested in it? They chose to click on that hashtag. They chose to include it and they chose to use it. And you should use it as well. So I spoke about earlier with the captions about being above and under the fold. So one of the best practices for hiding your hashtags in a post, because you don't really want to bombard people with all of that, when they're going on the feed, because it could make your caption very long. So what a lot of people do is they use these dots here to separate their hashtags from the actual caption. So that if I were to go on Instagram and, like I said, they cut it off at 125 characters, you won't see these hashtags initially used when you initially look at the post, unless you choose the option to click see more. And then that's when these dots unfold themselves and you get access to all of these hashtags. Now you can also put your hashtag in a comment on your post if you don't want to put it in the actual caption. Either way, you're still going to get the same engagement. It's still going to work and it's still going to get you seen on that page. It's all about personal preference where you choose to put your hashtags.
Anthony, I have a quick question. How often should we be switching up our hashtags in captions? And are hashtags helpful on Facebook?
I would recommend that you pick at least 10 consistent hashtags that you use throughout your page, but you also want to constantly be looking for more hashtags to use because every post is going to be different. I would imagine that you're not going to post the same thing every day. So depending on the topic of your discussion, you want to find hashtags that support that. So I've included some online hashtag generators where you can type in keywords and key phrases that you can use to get more hashtags. And to speak on, hashtags in regards to Instagram versus Facebook, I found that hashtags are more prevalent on Instagram. You can use them on Facebook, but it's just not the same as using them on Instagram. So I don't want to discourage you from using hashtags on Facebook. I just want you to be mindful that it doesn't work in the same way that it does on Instagram as far as using engagement. For some reason, Facebook users typically don't use hashtags as frequently.
We have a request to go back one slide.
Sure. To this slide?
I believe so. Is that right, Kwanika? Yes.
Okay.
All right. If you just want to hang out there for just a second.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. She said, thank you. I think
Right.
You're good.
No problem. Okay. So speaking about using relevant hashtags, this was a really good example that I found. When it comes to branding, you can actually create your own hashtags. There's no rules and regulations that says that you can't. So as you can see from this page, in their bio, they're actually telling people specifically what hashtags they want them to use. Oh, excuse me. And that's something that you can do for your business as well. Like I said, you want to have a group of hashtags that speak specifically to your industry and your business, and using your own branded hashtags could and should be included in that. As far as, especially if you're doing some type of promotion or a contest or a challenge, you can create a specific hashtag for those marketing events that you can encourage people to use. So I've spoken about how hashtags are a great driver for organic engagement, but that's not how these platforms make their money. It's really all about running ads. This is the big source of revenue. And if you really want to take your business to the next level, at some point you are going to want to consider investing dollars into setting up ads on Facebook. Now, the good thing about Facebook and Instagram is because they're both owned by the same company, you only have to use one to run ads across both platforms. And as we see here, that you can actually target people based on their location, which is why I stress so much during this discussion the importance of finding your niche. Because when it comes to actually spending money on ads, you don't want to waste your money trying to target people that are not interested. So making sure that you get very specific in regards to the geographical location, but also the type of people that you are trying to persuade to buy your product or your service. And as you can see here, there are different methods that you can use to target people. You can target them with specific demographics. You can target them based on their interests and their behaviors. And these are all different things that you can play with. And there's so many different options out there. I could be here for 3 whole days telling you about them all. But it's really up to you to really play around with these different things and really figure out what works best for you in accordance with your ad budget. It's generally advised that you use about 1 to 3% of your profits on advertising. Now, you don't necessarily have to, but like I said, just if you're looking to get that increased growth and you're not seeing what you want from getting just organic traffic, then, putting in that 1 to 3% of your gross profits will really help, take you to the next level and get more eyeballs on your page. And as you can see, social media is a pay to play game. The more money that you spend, the more reach that you're expected to get from those advertisements and pages. Here's just a small slide showing you specifically the different sizes that you should use, because 98% of social media users are using their cell phone to look at them. So you want to make sure that you're sizing your ads in a way that it looks as clean as possible to people who are looking at them. So somebody asked a question earlier about shopping on social media. It is a feature that is available on both Facebook and Instagram, where you can find products that you're interested in and actually buy them without having to go to another website to do so. And that's something that you really want to take advantage of if you have the ability to do so, because when you're selling products, you can actually use your customers as free publicity for you. As you can see with this post, this online store has taken advantage of user-generated content, where people who purchased this hat post pictures of themselves on social media. And now, as a business, you can use their picture on your business page and show people, hey, people actually like what they bought from my store, as you can see here. And you're sharing it and you're showing people, and you're making that, like I said, the transaction so much easier because they have a testimonial already from the post, and it's just a few clicks away to actually buy it. And not only are you enticing potential customers, but that customer that you now shared their picture, they're even more connected to your brand because you shared their picture, you noticed them, and you gave them that recognition. And that's something that will inspire brand loyalty. So when it comes to measuring your success, you want to make sure that you have your specific goals in mind. You want all of your goals to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I really want to stress the time-bound aspect, because you can try to plan to do something, but if you don't give yourself a deadline, then there's really no point. It'll never get done. So you want to make sure that all the goals that you have are very specific, so that once you do accomplish a goal or you fail to reach a goal, you're able to have some very specific key analytics to show you the progress, and you can see what you can work on, what's working and what's not working, so that, like I said, you can save a lot of time and your energy by not doing the wrong things. So to conclude this presentation, that thank you for sticking with me throughout this long. I know I've been talking for what seems like forever, but you'll just want to keep this in mind. Brainstorm, aesthetic, time, caption, and hashtags. These are the things that you really want to keep in the forefront of your mind when it comes to your social media marketing efforts. And also keep in mind the social media rule of thirds. You want 1/3 of your content to promote your business, another third to share ideas and stories from the thought leaders in your industry. And then the last third of your content should be based on building the connection with your brand. Because like I said, you want your interactions on social media to be a conversation. If people sense that you're not being genuine and authentic with your messaging, then they're not going to be inspired to follow you or buy from you. So you want to make sure that it really is a two-way street, that you're speaking and listening just as much as the other. And with that, I would like to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to spend time with you this morning. I know that your time is very valuable and precious, and the fact that you found that spending this time with me today would be beneficial to you means a lot to me, and I appreciate you for doing so. And now I'll answer any other questions that you may have.
Anthony, this was truly wonderful, educational, and very, very useful. We have a couple of comments. How can we connect with you?
Oh, I did forget to include that. I'm so sorry.
Do you want to throw that in the chat to everybody, maybe?
Yes, I can include my email address. So if you have any other specific questions, and like I said, a lot of this information will be sent to you after the slide. So
yes,
if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me. I saw somebody. Oh, can I go back? Yes, I can go back if this will let me. Oh. It's no problem. And of course, you can also get into contact with me by contacting the SBDC at SUNY Brockport. I included a link to the website in one of the earlier slides. So you can go there to request, to submit a request for counseling if you're interested in not only social media, but any other components of your business that you may need assistance with.
You can also just email insight, what is it? business.insight@libraryweb.org. I'll throw that in the chat as well. That's just for the library.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's in the chat. Sorry about that. There's a question now. Will there be an opportunity to offer a class that gets into more detail about how to do specific things? For example, reposting on Instagram or creating a link tree to your bio?
At this time, no, but if that's something that people are interested in, I hope that we'll be able to work something out and do another event similar to this in conjunction with the library to address those concerns.
Absolutely. There's another, do you have any recommendations for mass emails?
Not, well, specifically on how to construct emails, or just which platforms to use for email marketing?
Stacy, that's a question for you, if you can comment back.
Because I would just say off the top of my head,
platforms,
there's MailChimp. I know that for the SBDC specifically, we use Constant Contact as well. So those are two platforms that can be used for email marketing.
Excellent.
Can you say that again? MailChimp, is that C-H-I-M?
Chimp, C-H-I-M-P. Like a monkey. That's what the logo is. I don't know why they named it that, but it's catchy.
How about, do you have any tips of templates for making out a content calendar?
Well, that's what the batch framework is. It really helps you identify how to devise a content calendar. When it comes to specifically, submitting your post into the calendar, that's why I recommended using one of those third-party apps like Later, Hootsuite, or Tailwind, HubSpot as well, because then they'll actually make the calendar for you and you can see exactly how your posts are going to be structured. And you can actually get a preview of how they're going to look on the page as well.
Perfect. And how can we find our target market?
That's why you need to do the business model canvas. I think that when you do that and you really become mindful in asking yourself those questions of what am I doing and who am I doing it for, that'll help you really narrow down and find your niche. So it's really all up to you and what you have to offer.
Could you comment on Amazon sales and marketing?
No, I can't, unfortunately, speak to that because I don't want to spread any misinformation. That's not really my area of expertise.
Can you tell me how I can find my Instagram shop?
You have to create an Instagram shop yourself. I unfortunately didn't have enough time to get into the details of that. But if you are currently operating an e-commerce website, you just have to go on Instagram and make sure that your page is set up as a business. And then there should be another option in there for you to set up a shop.
And yes, the library will send the slides and the video. As far as the chat, I don't believe that's sent along, but you can, I think you can save the chat if you go to the 3 dots in the chat room. They're next to the smiley face. There's 3 dots. You click on that and then say save chat. But yes, we will send this out to all the participants. And then let's see. Is LinkedIn the best social media platform to reach small business owners?
Yes, it is. I didn't really focus on LinkedIn today because I recognize that a lot of the businesses today are more focused on B2C. But if your main business is B2B, I think that being on LinkedIn is more beneficial for you than being on a lot of other websites. That's not to say that you should ignore those other websites, but LinkedIn is primarily used for those business-to-business connections, and it's more of a professional networking service. So I would say that if that's the area of business that you're in, you should be on LinkedIn as well.
Excellent. Another, William, what's your email address? I think you threw that into the chat.
Yes, I did.
I can try to copy and paste that for the person. Yep. I'll get that copy and pasted so it goes down to the bottom of the chat for everyone. Okay. There's a lot of requests for us to record the chat. Someone says, I believe it'll be sent with the recording. I hope so as well. I'm not exactly sure if the chat comes through or not. We'll see what happens. Are there any other questions? Anthony, again, this was fantastic. This was really, really great. I want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank
yeah,
you for
definitely.
me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, I am going to stop recording. And let's see.